And there you go, Washington and Reagan, two of Governor Palin's favorites. Tammy, so many people use social media to show pictures of their dinner and kids and pets, but often Twitter and Facebook and the like play a vital role. Palin's been really a master getting a message out through new media. Your great show is online. We talked to Michelle Malkin on the program a couple weeks ago about Twitchy and how important that site has been in exposing hate from the tolerant left. But recently, you took to Twitter when an intruder was in your home. Bristol Palin featured those tweets on her blog. What happened with that situation?
Well, I live in an older home that has been divided into a variety of kind of bungalows, Spanish bungalows here in Los Angeles. And it's really very lovely. And there's a basement that goes under all the separate bungalows. And the basement access is from the outside. And one evening, my dog started behaving very strangely. My dog, Sydney, and she was barking at the floor, and it didn't occur to me what was going on until she finally started hitting the floor with her paw, barking, and then looking at me. I'm sure she thought I was, not a very smart human at that point. And that's when I realized that someone was in the basement, that Sydney was responding to something happening. Because you never think of the basement. In California, in Los Angeles, basements are not things that matter. In my case, that's where the hot water heater is, and the thing that creates the heat. It's a forced heat from the basement. And so I realized what was happening. Called the police. They came immediately and found a young man who had broken into the basement, who was a drug addict, and he was having some drug experiences in the basement, and they got him. Fortunately, there was no access to any of the homes from the basement because the access was from outside, and it's an interesting dynamic because for me, if I didn't have, I've got my firearm, I've got my .38 special, and I'm prepared in that regard. But if I didn't have the dog, I never would have known because I wasn't hearing anything. And so I think in that particular instance, the warning from the man's, in this case, woman's best friend, and calling the police, it was a combination that worked in my case. And I'm hoping that the young man that was in that situation is getting, sometimes being arrested and getting moved out of your system if you're a drug addict can get you on a road to some kind of recovery. And I'm hoping that was the case for him. But all was well, and I immediately, because I'm waiting for the police, I start tweeting. First, I was tweeting the fact that I thought my apartment was haunted because I didn't know what my dog was doing. My dog was barking at first into the living room. Eventually, she started barking at the floor. So I thought I was haunted. And so I thought, well, that's what I started tweeting. And then as it began to unfold, it became something a bit more, I think being haunted is serious, but it began to unfold as something a little bit more serious. And so for social media, it gives one a sense of certainly community and wanting to share. I feel that my followers and all of my subscribers are family. And so I felt it made me feel actually a little safer being able to tweet the situation as it unfolded. So I was grateful.
No, it was really amazing. We were watching it that day, and then Bristol put that blog out there, and it was really incredible.
It was sweet of her to chime in, I have to say.
Speaking of Sydney, how is the pup?
She's great. She's she's a cancer survivor. She's a great companion. I had a gathering of my subscribers not so long ago here in Los Angeles, and she was the guest of honor. And I think everybody was more excited to see her than they were to see me. And she loves people. And it's when it comes to the pressures that we're all under with what we're working on and trying to save our country, and with elections coming up, I can't stress enough the importance of having your personal, beyond the virtual world of ours, the importance of having your loved ones with you, the importance of taking time out for your family, the importance of having a balance in your life, because we have to look at this fight as a marathon as opposed to a sprint. And I think that the Palin family is a very good example of that, that while we appreciate what Governor Palin does all the time on new media and with her statements about politics, she has a husband, family, children, parents, a life that's expansive beyond the nature of her work. And that's the kind of thing that we all need to have so that we've got the energy and the wherewithal to see this through, because it's going to get, we think it's ugly and tough now. It's going to get only tougher.
Well, folks, I got to tell you, last time I saw Tammy, we were on a panel together, a Breitbart deal in Maryland outside of Washington, D.C., and the one thing, she was happy about everything, fired up about everything, but she felt bad about leaving Sydney home, her dog. So I know she gets the carte blanche treatment, just like my lab, Liesel, did. Never stayed with the stranger. It was always, well, I can't go if she can't be hooked up in this way. So I completely am on the same page with you in that, and I appreciate that. And it's so great to talk to you as always, and thank you so much for being here. And before we let you bounce, can you let us know how people can hear your great show?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, it's 5 days a week, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is worldwide. The exclusive carrier is TalkStream Live, and you can get the link actually at my blog, which is at TammyBruce.com. That's TammyBruce.com. And as you mentioned, I'm also now a weekly columnist at the Washington Times as well, and that's every Friday. My column pops up there, and it's also in the print edition.
Tammy Bruce, a pleasure having you here, and we'll talk again soon. You have a great evening.
You're a doll. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
For much more on our friend Tammy Bruce, visit TammyBruce.com. Well, this past week, Governor Palin wrote an amazing piece for Breitbart calling for the impeachment of Barack Obama. Palin writes, "Enough is enough of the years of abuse from this president. His unsecured border crisis is the last straw that makes the battered wife say, no mas." Palin goes on to look into Obama's impeachable offenses, writing, "Who's looking out for the American workers? Who has their backs? Who fights for them? We should. President Obama's rewarding of lawlessness, including his own, is the foundational problem here." Palin adds, quote, "It's time to impeach, and on behalf of American workers and legal immigrants of all backgrounds, we should vehemently oppose any politician on the left or right who would hesitate in voting for articles of impeachment. The many impeachable offenses of Barack Obama can no longer be ignored. If after all this he's not impeachable, then no one is." Unquote. A powerful read that can be accessed in its entirety at Breitbart.com. We also have a link for the piece on our Mama Grizzly Radio Facebook page and our Mama Grizz Radio Twitter feed. Well, Sportsman Channel has announced that Amazing America with Sarah Palin will be back for Season 2. The unique outdoor-centric show entertained us with 12 wonderful episodes in Season 1, and now Palin's back for another go at it. Season 2 set to start in early 2015. Palin says we're working on stories about people that go above and beyond to help others, really inspirational stuff that will encourage the entire nation. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page and follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA. Now it's time to strap in with the Colonel. Here's our friend Colonel Rob Manus.
Thanks, Kevin. We have an exciting week ahead on the campaign trail with plans to put over 1,000 miles on my Ford F-150 traveling to Lake Charles, Alexandria, Shreveport, and West Monroe. In each city, we'll be holding a Solutions for Us town hall. At every stop, we'll be discussing the most important issues confronting Louisianans and the best conservative ideas to solve them. 2 of these events will be with veterans groups, and we'll talk about the egregious failure of the last 2 administrations to serve our vets in the ways that they deserve. We'll talk about immigration and the failures of both my opponents to take leadership roles in proposing and enacting policies that are in the best interest of our country and which would effectively address the humanitarian crisis created by President Obama at the southern border. We'll talk about the importance of economic growth to generate an atmosphere of opportunity in which every American can achieve his or her highest possible potential. And we'll talk about the inherent dignity of every human life and the need to have a senator who will fight for the right to life, not march in lockstep behind President Obama's extreme pro-abortion agenda. Of course, I expect the Obamacare will continue to be an important topic of conversation. Among all the constitutional abuses of that law, it continues to amaze me that Harry Reid Mary Landrieu, and others believe that they should be exempt from the regulations imposed on the rest of us to pay the increasing premiums that the bill is causing. That's why the 10th pledge of my contract with Louisiana commits me to living by the same laws that Congress imposes on the people. No longer should the political class in Washington be exempt from the laws they require the American people to obey. But I need your support. Visit us online to volunteer or to donate at www.robmanus.com. With your help, Louisiana will send me, one of us, to the Senate to advance the principles of liberty, prosperity, and certainty. And listen for Governor Palin's new radio ad supporting our campaign that will continue across Louisiana this week. This is retired Colonel Rob Manus with Mama Grizzly Radio.
Join us again next week for another segment of Strappin' with the Colonel featuring Rob Manus on Mama Grizzly Radio. For more on Colonel Manus, head to robmanus.com. That's ROBMANESS.com.